talk about is fasting. The term fasting means to abstain from food, solid food. And contemporarily, when we're talking about fasting, we're talking about liquid food as well, that is juices, fruit juices, and vegetable juices. Now, fasting, the term meant to abstain, and we usually consider a fast when you go to sleep at night and you wake up in the morning. You have a period of time where you break your fast, and they call that break fast. And that's because of the history of fasting. That's where the term breakfast comes from, or breakfast as we say, but it means break your fast. And another thing is a person should have their stomach empty before they go to sleep, and that's why they say, are you fast asleep? Meaning abstain from food, fast asleep. So the words, if you trace them back in their origins, you'll find out always refer to a period of time when people fasted. Now, for African people, fasting occurred during certain scheduled times of the year. During harvesting season, just before harvest, there would be a fast. See, when you had plenty of food around, and just before the food supply dwindles down, the amount of food you eat decreases, and that puts you on a fast. And then you have the harvest when there's plenty of food again. So between the harvesting season, there was a time when you fasted. These were scheduled by nature. Then there are fasts that are scheduled by the sun, and we use the solstice for that, the winter solstice, the summer solstice. That's when the sun is the highest point from the equator. So they help you schedule a fast. And they are fasts based on religions, 40 days and 40 nights without food, which is called quarantine in Italian. That's where the word quarantine comes from, fasting. So we have fasting that are scheduled by religions, fasting that's scheduled by the sun, and fasting that are scheduled by harvesting seasons. Nature, of course, causes you to fast. All animals, whenever they're sick, they stop eating and they'll go get a herb. A dog will do it, a cat, as well as horse and cattle. They will go on a fast. They will just stop eating. And that puts them on a fast because a fast has a curative element to it. That's why we fasted. It helps to regenerate the system and nourish the system. So it's a time when you give back to nature. During the time that you're eating, you're taking from nature. And during the fast, you're supposedly giving back to nature. And that gives you a balance. And that's what fast was meant to do, to put you back in equilibrium with nature. A time when there's fasting, a time when there's not fasting. So the fast as it's known today includes liquid food, as I mentioned before. And when you're using liquid food, such as apple juice, raw apple juice, orange juice, grapefruit juice, and vegetable juices, spinach, beet, carrot, that's when you concentrate the juice from the plant. So whenever you're dealing with a concentrate, you have to take a lot more fluids. So you drink more water when you're drinking liquid, such as the juices and the vegetable juices and fruit juices. So your water content should be escalated because of the concentrated nature of the juices. So that helps flush out your system. Let's just start from someone who's never been on a fast before. The biggest fear usually is, I'm going to starve to death. For some reason, people just think they're going to starve and drop and die. But that doesn't happen. Usually, this business about starving, that's a starvation diet. We're not talking about starvation. We're talking about a controlled period of time when you're on water or juices or liquids. That's fasting as opposed to starvation. But most of the time when you say fasting, people are thinking of starving to death, but we're not talking about that. Not at all. We're talking about a controlled period of time where you're abstaining from eating solid foods to rest your digestive system. Now, the fear about starving to death, that doesn't happen. The fear of being so hungry that you'll just run and get something to eat, usually when the small intestines and large intestines are emptied of all the food, that's when you lose the craving for food. There are things that you can take for cravings, such as glutamine or glutamic acid, which is an amino acid, which reduces the craving. There's a herb called quassia, which reduces craving, and there's a mineral supplement, as we call it, called chromium, which also reduces craving. Quassia is named, the herb quassia is named after an African man who was using that herb during that particular time, and the Europeans wanted it, so they chased him down to South America where this herb was found, and found out where the herb was and how to locate it, and after they found this information, they killed an African man by the name of Quassia. So it's a kind of a mixture of our history involved in this herb, involving chromium, involving glutamic acid as well. So these substances, the supplement of chromium, the herb quassia, and the amino acid glutamic acid, or glutamine, help reduce the craving. So you can take that while you're on the first 3 days of your fast to help reduce the craving and the kind of impulse that you're going to starve and die of death or something of that sort. Let's just go back to like I said, someone who's never fasted before, with these misconceptions about starving to death, and the misconception about having a craving, they'll just run and get something to eat, and also the misconception that their body, when they're on a fast, is eating itself up. That comes out of European mythology and superstitions. In their system of thoughts, as some people like to call it, the Europeans believe that they are being attacked by someone, or they're going to attack someone. So they're constantly in this dichotomy of either they're going to attack something or something's going to attack them. Either they're going to be attacked by a germ that gives them a cold, or either they're going to attack the germ that's going to give them the cold with some kind of medicine, or something of that sort. So they always believe in this attack and taking. Either I take something from you or you take something from me. That's based in their superstition. So they believe either you're eating or something is eating you. That's why they say, what's eating you? That sort of terminology comes out of European superstition and mythology. So they believe that when you go on a fast, that your body is resorting to cannibalism and eating itself. That is just plain stupid, actually. I don't want to be scientific about it anymore. That's just stupid. What happens is you have for example, you have a ship that's at sea, and so the ship is about to sink, and you figure the only way to save this ship from sinking is to get rid of anything that's going to hold it down, put too much weight on it. So you start throwing out the extra furniture you have on the ship, the stereo, the TV, the video, God forbid, I'm sorry, keep your video. Throw out the chairs and the tables and all that sort of thing to stop this ship from sinking. That's what the body does. It gets rid of all excess, all weak things that's going to stop it from preserving life. And that's what the Europeans call your body eating itself. That is not true. What happens is all the mucus and congestion that gets in the way of the two cells rubbing together. See, one cell rubs to the right, the other rubs to the left, and these cells rubbing together creates energy, pure energy. And anything that stops these cells from getting together, the body gets away from, because the body needs this energy. So it throws out the mucus. It gives you a cold, as you call it, and you may break out with bumps and things of that sort. It gets rid of it, throws out all these things, throws away all the toxins that are stored in the fat, because that is stopping the body from making energy, stopping the two cells from rubbing together. So it gets rid of all of this excess weight. And that's why you find after the first week of a fast, according to studies done in Sweden, and other European countries who have kept people in a glass container or isolated them in a room and watched them under scientific observation and only gave them water, they found that they gained weight in the second week of fasting because their body was creating pure energy. This is something that happens on a fast. I know it's kind of hard for you to probably understand, but the body is creating pure energy, and therefore it's able to gain pure weight instead of fat weight. And that happens during the fast. So around the third day is when your small intestines, which you call your stomach, this is your small intestines, the stomach is up higher behind the rib cage. Your small intestines empties itself, the colon empties itself, and you no longer have any food in your body. That occurs on the third day of the fast, and that's when you lose the craving. So there's no fear about starving and your body eating itself, because that does not occur in nature. That's really just a superstition. So we start our fast the same way you start in life. You see, the food is introduced to you gradually. You're not born and then the first day of your birth, your mother gives you a full course meal. That's not how it's done, even in nature. So this fasting has to be introduced to you gradually.